How you doing, man?
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's taken a little bit for us to get this pod scheduled, but I'm glad that we finally got around to doing it.
Yeah, man.
And like I was saying beforehand, I'm glad that you got to do it in the new studio.
Yeah, it looks good. The cable runs are clean.
Thank you.
I was just complimenting you on all the gear. It's nice.
Thank you very much, man. How's life been? Have you been performing a lot lately? Are you writing right now? Like,
Been writing a lot.
Yeah, what's music looking like for you?
The music stuff, I've been writing a lot, producing a lot. Pretty much just kind of getting things ready for, I don't know, when I eventually start putting stuff out. Biggest thing is I'm kind of just honing in on becoming a better songwriter, a better producer, a better, artist, I guess. I don't know, because there's so much that goes into it. There's so many intricacies into the whole business. So slowly learning all of that, redirecting focus.
Well, because you've got especially like in the production side of things, you got a long history in doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Before we even continue the podcast, I got to shout out Tina from the Mango Cakes because she's the reason I even know about you. And I was like, oh damn, yeah, sounds like because you got pretty high remarks from all those guys. So I was like, fuck yeah. And then like I went to your when you guys were shooting the music video down. I wasn't in downtown. It was like
up on in Los Ranchos.
Yeah,
up on
Los Ranchos. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That was a really cool shoot. Poor Leroy got stuck with the light for like an hour, and that was fucking hilarious.
Dog. That's like it's there's like things that people do where you realize like, okay, I got a real one in my corner, and that was it.
Yeah.
He was like, I have pictures of him, bro. He's like just up there with the light like this. Shout out to Leroy.
I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Dude, I love that dude. He just did a set as Mac Miller too.
Yeah.
I was sad I couldn't make it. I was working.
Yeah, I wasn't able to make it to that either, but I heard it was a fucking cool show. I mean, I saw them do that whenever his birthday was a few months, more like in December-ish. Yeah. It was a good group. Yeah, it was a good group of guys, both them and him and the dudes from the Mangoes and like the auxiliary musicians. But anyway, I saw you do that, and then I think the last time I saw you perform was at the memorial service at Launchpad.
Okay.
And that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool show.
Yeah, it was fun.
How long have you just been, like, when did musicianship, production, anything revolving entertainment, how long ago did that start for you?
So I was one of the kids that started playing guitar because I liked Guitar Hero. Like I started playing Guitar Hero, like refound like a lot of artists that I really love because like, I don't know, it was just awesome. And I love the feeling of having like a little guitar in my hand. So at around 12, I picked it up, found some crappy guitars in closets of split houses. So like at my dad's house, there was a little tiny one. At my mom's house, there was like this regular size one, but it only had one string. And I spent like maybe a year just like messing with it every once in a while, like trying to make it make sounds and like learning like, all of that. And then my uncle gave me a real guitar. Like it was kind of like a beginner's guitar. Like it's like $100, but it was brand new. He was going to learn guitar, and then he stopped and he was like, here, take it. And then from there, just kept on playing guitar. Like I would sing just to my favorite songs. I never thought I was going to be a singer or anything. And that was just pretty casual. I never took really lessons. Like I had a lesson every once in a while from a friend of mine, Casper Gomez. He was my guitar teacher in middle school, and I'd go to him every once in a while, but nothing really ever kind of took. I would just kind of go home and just do the same shit I was always doing, just noodling around with the same songs, like learning a new songs, like printing out tabs in the school library, like for songs that I wanted to learn.
Tabs were like the life and death of the very short time that I played guitar. Well, because like I was real young, and same like that. I got a little starter guitar, and I was like, yeah, I want to learn how to play Green Day. I want to learn how to play, that type of shit. And the person that I was taking guitar lessons from did not teach me how to read music. They didn't. And as a fucking kid, right, I don't know what to learn. Like I was like 8 years old, I think. 9 maybe a little, 8 or 9 when I first started, I think. And no, that's not true. I was like 10 or 11 because I was in middle school at the time. Anyway, I remember being young and thinking, I'm learning how to play my favorite songs. This is sick. Yeah. And then I'm coming home not learning shit because I'm just going over fucking tabs anyway. And then I remember my dad, because he was the one that was paying for the lessons and taking me and shit. I remember because he was like a big classical music guy. He was not a musician. He was not an artist by any means. But he's like, when it came to things that, like, he's not very good at like English or writing or anything like that. But when it came to like anything, like, it's like a language that's not a language, like math and coding and music, how like it's a language, but it's not like a spoken language.
Yeah.
He latched onto that shit easy, right? So he just taught himself how to read music. And so he was like, he showed me like a very simple, like traditional, I don't even know what the fuck to call it, but like traditional, like bar sheet music. And he's like, play this. Very simple stuff. And I was like, I have no idea what the fuck that is. And he's like, what the fuck am I paying for? I'm like, I don't know. Don't hit me. Like, I can't answer that. But yeah, it was, like, tabs really got me into it. And then once I, like, I'm not gonna say, I want to say I hit a ceiling. So I was only fucking 10 or 11 years old. There's no ceiling when you're that young. Yeah. But I was just like, I feel like I'm supposed to get more out of this. But, like, the jump between, like, the really easy tabs to, like, the super complicated shit, it's like, I don't know how to bridge that gap. And then my dad just got pissed that he was paying so much money for something that I could be doing online for free. So that stopped, and then it all just came fucking crashing down. Fair enough. When you were, like, when you get this first guitar and you're fucking around with the songs that you like to play, was this all in Albuquerque? Like, are you born and raised in Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool shit.
Yeah, born and raised.
So a lot, like, what was the music you grew up listening to?
I'm proud to announce that the podcast is now officially sponsored by the fine people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, this is some of the best chili you can get here in the state of New Mexico, and they are online as well as in stores. They can be found at Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, John Brooks, and Lowe's Corner Market. They have 3 amazing flavors that you see here, and they also have frozen green chili that you can get online. Go on over to the website, chopchilico.com, and get yourself some amazing chili today. Podcast is now officially sponsored by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of. They have 2 locations here in Albuquerque, 1 in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed right here and in the description of this episode. All 3 offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to gift me here. All of this can be found at all 3 of their locations. Again, big thank you to the guys over at HDR for supporting. Now back to the episode.
It was a mixture. So both my parents liked rock, classic rock. My dad leaned more towards like metal and like, they call dad rock, divorced dad rock, like radio stuff like Stained and, Godsmack and all that. So like I grew up listening to that with him. With my mom, she liked, Journey and not a lot of the hair metal bands, but like some of them, like Queensryche.
Oh shit! Okay.
But
Damn.
She also really listened to a lot of soul and R&B, like 60s soul, like Al Green, Brenton Wood, like people from the like 60s and 70s, like a lot of that kind of soul. Like I just grew up with her cleaning the house too. Journey was when she was like partying and hanging out. The amount of times I fell asleep to fucking the song Lights by Journey is crazy.
Yeah.
It still puts me to sleep.
Well, and you can kind of see the soul, and you can definitely see the soul inspiration in a lot of your music. And you did like your own, like, I wouldn't say it's a cover, like a remix, I guess. The most recent one you put out of Put Your Head on My Shoulder, like that was really fucking good.
Thank you.
Right, so you could see the real inspiration. What were you learning on the guitar? Like what did you latch on to?
Rock.
Like song-wise, I guess. Like, were there any songs that you just like, I don't want to fucking learn anything today. I'm going to go back to playing the main stuff out of this, like, these songs that I know. Like, what were your go-to back then?
My go-to was, like, rock stuff. Yeah, like, when it came to playing, like, I just wanted to be a rock guitarist because, look cool. I wanted to be able to shred. To this day, I still can't shred. Like, I definitely hit a ceiling that I'm not sure if I'll get past outside of just learning like theory and stuff, because like I can't, my fingers aren't fast enough to shred. Like my dexterity isn't there, and I don't have a want for it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm a decent rhythm guitarist, but yeah, I wanted to be a rock guitarist, and then learned eventually like, okay, I'm not getting any faster. I'm trying.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was until about 18. And then I started working with the soul funk pop band, like because I wanted to do sound engineering. And through them, I started.
Which band was this?
They were called the JDS, the James Douglas Show. Okay. And they were one of the bigger bands, one of the biggest bands out of New Mexico, especially around that time. They're think Mango Cakes on steroids. But they were doing...
And there's already like 25 of those fuckers on stage. So.
And they only needed 6 of them. The JDS was a 6-piece. And through them, I was kind of reintroduced to like soul and like R&B and like even more soul and R&B that I hadn't listened to, like 90s stuff.
Is that the fucking ice cream truck again? Is making his rounds. Like I was like, okay, either a really annoying car is backing up, or like, okay. Anyway,
you know what? That's my ice cream truck. I might have left that on. I gotta make sure nobody's stealing my shit.
So how did you get connected with that level of a band at such a young age?
So I mentioned I had a guitar teacher in middle school named Casper. He had his own production company where he would run sound sometimes, and. At 16, I dropped out of high school and I was like working, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this money? Oh, I'm going to go get guitar lessons from Casper. And through those lessons, he told me he was a sound engineer and he had his own company, and I had never thought about it. So at that moment, I decided like, okay, I think I want to be a sound engineer. That was the first thing that like really clicked in my head. So I tried to work with him as much as possible. He didn't have a lot of work. And then around 18, he kind of passed me off to these people that needed an intern at their studio.
And I'd imagine in that interim time, you were kind of like learning from him, being mentored by him, like watching him do his thing. Like, so I'm curious, like what, other than like the clear passion you had for it as you're working with him, what was it, do you think, looking back, like what was it that stood out about you to him? Like, hey, you guys should really take this guy on.
I did have some determination. Like, I'd hit him up every now and then, like, hey, man, you got any more gigs? Like, got anything else you're doing? He didn't have a lot of work, though, and there wasn't, like, a lot of opportunity to learn from him. And I had known him for a few years at that point because I had been going to the middle school. And he met me there, and, like, we kind of became friends. And then we stayed in contact, obviously, because I went and got some lessons from him. And after that, it was just kind of like a friend thing. So it was kind of a who you know, as opposed to like he really, really saw something in me. I mean, he would probably tell you he saw something, but, you know, I just would stick around and I would be like, hey, man, you got any more gigs? You know, and these friends of his, they were that band, the James Douglas Show. They had 2 studios ran by 2 separate engineers. They had a smaller one, a B room, and they had a bigger one ran by this engineer, also their keyboard player in the band, but this engineer producer that has trying to think of the right word. His name is Mike C. He has plaques. He has, you know, big numbers. He works with big people.
He's got a resume.
He's got a real resume. I still can't think of but a resume basically. Yeah. So like they had him.
Like credits.
Yeah.
That type of shit, yeah.
Yeah, and they had a separate rehearsal room from all that, too. So, like, I wanted to be a live sound engineer. I didn't want to do studio stuff. But because the band was running a studio and running the band, and they were in their downtime, I worked in the studio a lot with their the engineer in their smaller room. So I interned with him for a year, working with them. They would have gigs here and there. Their stuff kind of slowed down around the time I got there because investors pulled out or whatever happened. And yeah, I just had a lot of time to, like, just mess around in the rehearsal room, sitting around them, learning how they kind of interact with clients, how they build songs, how they record, like, just kind of getting all of it
Yeah.
at once, like the etiquette that you need to have when you're kind of around in those situations with high level musicians. Because
I was gonna say you're learning a lot of soft skills. Like that's something that I got a lot of the conversation when I sat down with Kenny Riley from Rio Grande. Is he said that one of the biggest parts of his job as a music producer was managing personalities and learning how to interact with different types of people.
Yeah.
Learning how to give different types of people criticisms, how to give them feedback. Before, of course, excuse me. Before I just jump in like, hey man, that's not good. Let's not do it. Like the steps that it takes, like, hey, maybe we should, or maybe this, or that type of like interpersonal interaction.
Yeah.
Because how old are you at this point? Again,
18.
You're 18. Yeah, those are important skills to learn at an early age.
And I had none of them. Like I was this Pharaoh kid that grew up in Southeast Albuquerque, like, in the war zone. Like I was hanging around that time. Like I had nothing to do. I was hanging around, a bunch of cholos, and I was like a cholo skater kid too. Like I'd skate to and from my house to the studio every day, and like I had no skills, no social skills, no any skills. Like I didn't know anything,
Well, it's hard to learn positive social skills in that type of environment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, let's call it what it is. It's the war zone for a reason. You know what I mean? You're learning social skills, but you're learning like defensive social skills. You're learning situational awareness from negative things, and that's what you're being inundated and surrounded by. And then I'd imagine, and going to school and shit like that, that's all your other friends are talking about. That's what they're hearing from their family or from their parents about how bad this part of town is or what's going on in Albuquerque. Because I feel like that type of conversation, where it's like, when is Albuquerque going to get better? That's been a conversation for like 30 years. You know what I mean? For a very long time. So growing up around that as a kid, I mean, because when my parents split, I was bouncing between my mom's place on the west side, like right off of golf course, and then for a while my dad was living with his family, and I was off of fucking Cesar Chavez.
Okay.
So it's like two completely different worlds, but it's in the same city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the conversations, and at least from what I experienced, like the different the conversations are different depending on what side of town you're on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
If you don't mind me asking, what led you to leaving high school early?
I just didn't like it. I hated it. Hated every second of it.
Yeah.
In half a semester, I went to 3 different high schools.
Oh shit.
At first, I got into the charter school Papa, which is a performing arts high school.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that.
I left like 2 days in because
Oh,
I just left at lunch and was like, I'm not going back because I don't know. I just didn't like it. For some reason, the kids did. I didn't feel like I was gonna have a community there. I don't know what it was. I just didn't want to fucking take the bus all that way because we didn't have a car. I've been taking the bus to school since middle school, so like the city bus.
Right.
So I was tired of that. Left Papa, went to Highland, where I had some friends from Wilson Middle School, and I just didn't have those same friends anymore. I was different. I was very depressive, very like angry, and they sensed it, and they just didn't take to me, I guess. So left there after like a month or 2, and then I went to Monzano, where I had more recent friends from the other middle school I went to, Jackson, and I lasted there like another month, and then I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm 16. I'm just gonna get my GED. So I got that like immediately and started working at Arby's from like 16 to 17, and then around 18 is when I met all of them.
Yeah, I really feel like I worked in restaurants for about 7 years or so, 7-8 years, and I worked just as like a busser and then like a server and shit like that. I firmly believe that like teenagers, young 20-year-olds need to spend a significant amount of time in some sort of service industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because not only are you taking like, you're learning, we're talking about really like soft skills, learning how to, you're learning in one way or another, you're kind of learning sales, right? But you're just learning how to talk to people, whether they're very happy and drunk, or if they're just angry and they feel like they're not getting the best service they possibly could because the soup was too whatever the fuck, right? Yeah. Learning skills like that, but then you're also just learning how to take shit on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Because they don't give a fuck how old you are. You could be a minor and they'll scream at you like you're a fucking 40-year-old.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, none of that ever happened.
Well, that's good.
To me. I mean, Not that I remember, and I probably wouldn't have gone down the way they wanted it to. Because, like I said, I was very angry.
Yeah.
And just kind of ready.
But no, just being in that environment of just customer service in general, I think that should be like a prerequisite to being an adult. Like, go work in a restaurant for a fucking year, see what the world is like.
I agree.
You know what 100%. I mean?
100%.
So you're 18 years old, you're working in a professional studio, or you're working with all these different types of personalities. How long are you working there, and what are you, like, looking back on it, but, like, what are you picking up along the way? Like, what type of stuff are you learning?
So around, like I said, they were like a soul, funk, R&B, pop group, and I started picking up just like what it means to be that kind of musician, because I had no idea, never researched into it. I didn't care. You know, I'd listen to my oldie songs that I knew from my mom, and that was more or less it. And, you know, pop from today, from that day, but I really got into all the different types of music when I got with that band, because all of them were high-level musicians. All of them either came from something great, or they did something great, or, you know, all of their resumes are stacked for the most part. So being around that, I started understanding what was possible, because not a lot of them had great upbringings, you know. Some of them came from places where, you know, they didn't have money, or, you know, one of my best friends was adopted and he bounced back between a few different states. Another friend, he got into drugs really, really heavily at one point, and just kind of seeing where these people were and all the things they were able to do despite all that, it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, well, maybe I could do whatever the fuck I want to. So that, to me, that's the biggest thing I learned from all of them, was just that you can kind of do whatever, not whatever, but for the more or less, you could do whatever you set your mind to. You know, you're going to have to take some shit. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to compromise a lot. You know, you're going to have to be used a lot, you know, depending on the situation, right? Like, I don't think I got paid more than maybe I don't know, $15,000, $20,000 in the time that I was working for them in that 3-year span. But I knew nothing going into it. I don't even know what an XLR was. Like, yeah. I didn't make much, but everything that I learned made up for all the money that I wasn't making. Like, I would do gigs here and there too. Like, I'm not just a sound engineer. I also do rigging. My dad was in the industry on the labor side of it too. So, like, I was always around it, and I could always pick up gigs on the side to supplement the money I wasn't making there.
And define rigging for people who don't know what you're talking about.
Rigging, so the rigging I'm talking about is like concert rigging. So all the speakers that fly up in the air, all the lights that go up in the air, the video, the props, everything, they're all attached to motors. So as a rigger, I go up in the air, drop a rope down wherever they are going to set those motors. I pull up the motor chain, secure it to the roof. That way the motors can climb up and pick up the gear.
How long did it take you to learn that? Like, just to get comfortable? Let's say get comfortable with it, because that's like some pretty high responsibility. Like, you fuck that up, yeah. You could kill somebody.
Yeah, a couple years to where I was like comfortable. I think it took me about 4 years till I felt like I was getting good at it. But I've always felt this really high sense of responsibility, which I don't think a lot of, not a lot of, but not all these riggers do. You know, I took a very high sense of responsibility for it, and this is while I'm also learning the sound engineering and interning at that studio and working with that band. So, like, it's almost like two different worlds, because the labor side, the production side of it is so different from the band side of it, right? Even as a sound engineer, sometimes you're kind of caught in the middle, but you end up more towards the labor. Working with that band, I felt like more of a musician in a sense. Like, right. Being with the band, I think, is super important if you want to learn the kind of psychology behind musicians, and working with them and kind of learning what they want and what they need without them even having to tell you a lot of the time.
Well, and you're appreciating the process from a different angle.
Yeah.
You know, you're learning to appreciate behind the scenes what goes into making everything possible.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, when you are out as a musician, you're performing, you're doing shows, you're able to look around again through a different light and it's like, oh yeah, this is like what what had to come together to make all of this possible, and then talk about having a higher sense of responsibility in the job that you're doing. That's even more of a reason to give the best performance that you possibly can. And in a lot of other ways, like, yeah, you don't want to fucking disappoint the crowd of people that came out and paid money.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, great, we set up all this shit just for you to bomb. Good job. You know what I mean? Like, good job, man. And how long are you working in this studio with this? And it's just dedicated for this one band?
About, I think 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Because about 3 or 4 years in, I moved to LA.
What made you want to make the jump? Aside from the obvious, right? Aside from like, oh, it's Hollywood's out there, the industry's out there, all that type of shit. Like, because I mean, you could have gone to LA, you could have gone to Nashville, you could have tried to go to New York. Obviously, LA is closer to New Mexico.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a lot of other music hubs you could have gone to.
Yeah.
And what year is this? Now that you're turning like 2021?
21. And it was like 2017.
Okay. So, we're still a few years before the pandemic. You got some time. We don't even know it's even a thing. But, you know, life is still good back then.
Yeah. Life is great.
What made
I'm broke as shit, but I'm
Yeah.
happy.
What made you want to go out to LA?
So LA specifically, my ex at the time, she got a position at a studio to do kind of all the back end stuff there and like receptionist stuff. And she was also a touring person. She did merchandise and stuff like that. So she ends up working with the studio in Beverly Hills. And like I followed her like a few months after. My plan was to go to Phoenix because I already had kind of some connections there because I had done some like rigging stuff there and production stuff, and I knew a lot of the people there. So that was going to be my next move. I'm glad my ex-girlfriend at the time, I'm glad that she went to LA because it was just kind of like Phoenix was going to be a stepping stone for me, and at this point going to LA was just like a leap. You know, like the first month that I paid rent there, it was like $1,000, which is cheap as hell. But it was for LA. But
yeah, that's cheap for LA.
But that was the most money I spent on any one thing at that time in my life. And then I was able to keep that up, you know, for the next few years, which is kind of crazy to think about.
How big was the spot you were living in?
It was
the size of this room.
No, it wasn't that small, but it wasn't big. It was like maybe the size of, I don't know how big this place is, but maybe the size of this place. I can't even think in square footage. 200, 300, 400, 500 square feet, 700. I don't know.
I was gonna say
it wasn't super small.
Yeah. Well, that's not okay. It's like a little townhome you guys are living. I mean, how the fuck did you score $1,000 rent? That's crazy. It was $1,000 each.
Super lucky, and the landlord
Oh shit.
just $1,000, and the landlord was super shady. Also, a friend of mine that was running the band that I was working for, he had gotten, I think that, and he was going to come back to New Mexico, so he was like, here, just take over.
Oh, nice.
You know, I'll sublease it too. So, got super lucky.
So your chick at the time, she's working at a studio. When you went out there, what was like the first couple of things you wanted to get done? Where did you find a job at?
So Craigslist.
Nice.
There was a labor company that did stagehand rigging stuff. I got with them. They were called Bigger Hammer, and they're kind of one of the more higher end labor companies out there because they paid decently. They were non-union, but they were kind of as close to union as you can get, almost, out there, you know, for that kind of company. So I started working for them as much as possible. Kind of went back down the ladder. They just threw me on a bunch of stagehand stuff. I would rig every once in a while, which is cool. And then I'd pick up sound gigs here and there, but it kind of took me a while to get sound stuff rolling because I just didn't have connections, didn't know how to do it. I was focused on just making money to pay rent, you know, and just kind of figuring things out as I went.
And how are you navigating LA? Because that seems like such a behemoth to get into, and like, There's so many different. Like, I feel like in a town like that, there are so many. There are a lot more routes to destruction than there are success. You know what I mean? I feel like that's so readily accessible out there.
Depending on who you are and what your vices are, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that place swallows people up, and it doesn't spit them back out sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't really have any vices. You know, I didn't do drugs. I didn't even smoke weed. I still really don't. I didn't drink a lot at all. I had my girl, you know, I wasn't out chasing pussy. I wasn't, you know, I didn't worry about anything else other than working, climbing ladders, and just meeting people and just trying to further my resume. You know, that was my whole focus. So it was fine for me. I think my biggest vice out there was just food. You know, fast food.
Well, the Mexican food there is fucking phenomenal, man.
It's not New Mexican.
Well, yeah, you are correct. But like for real, like legit Mexican food, like I went to this place because a few years ago I worked as a recruiter for a college down in Roswell, and I would go on business trips to go to different like college fairs and shit like that. And I got to go to California multiple times, and I gamed I'll be honest, I gamed the fuck out of that system because they're like, yeah, we'll pay for your flights and we'll like pay for the rental and pay for the hotel and you get per diem. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And then like, or if you drive to any like business trip or any like fair, like college fair you're doing or whatever, yeah, we'll still pay for. You'll get per diem and you'll get like your hotel paid for and all that shit. But we'll pay you. I think it was like 63 cents a mile to go, and I was like, what? So each trip that I would go, I just get an extra like $1,200.
Hell yeah.
To cover the fucking gas and shit.
Yeah.
But I remember I went down to there's this little city. It was like an hour to the east. Yeah, hour east of LA. Oh wow, I'm stupid. Yeah, it was an hour east of LA, and it was called Rialto.
Okay.
Little tiny fucking town. Legit, I had to learn. Not that I didn't know. I don't know a lot of Spanish, but I had to speak Spanish to fucking order the food.
Yeah.
And some of the best fucking Mex I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
So what are you doing down like networking wise? How are you meeting people? How are you connecting with other people? Just like navigating your way through like the social, that like huge ecosystem of people.
Well, I'm a young, you know, rambunctious kid. And I know I've been doing stage hand work on and off since I'm 15. So at this point, I've been doing it like, you know, 6-7 years. So like I know what I'm doing on shows. So like people see that. They see I don't need my hand held. I'm helping lead people, you know, when they're confused or like just, you know, they'll send you off on little things because the shows in LA, they're so big. A lot of times it's like they'll send just little teams of people to go on one end of the convention center, one end of wherever they set this thing up on the beach or wherever it is. And so they just see that I'm working hard and that I'm hungry for it and that I'm also like I'm talking to them. I'm letting them know I'm a sound engineer also. So like I'm lucky in the sense that I've always had people to kind of take me under their wing. That's where the whole name LJ the Kid comes from. It's not because I think I'm still a kid. I'm almost 30. But
whatever the fuck you're doing to take care of yourself, keep it up. Because you do not look 30, man. Good for you.
Oh, I'm 28 now, so I got a year and a half about. So I'm gonna hold on to that. But
you can still fuck it up. It's okay.
But yeah, man, I look young, and people have always taken me under their wing. You know, the people that I look up to, the people that I listen to, I talk to. You know, some of my best friends are in their 40s, 50s. You know, I'm always gonna be the kid to them.
Right.
You know, especially because of the way I look.
And well, especially at that age too, at 20, 21, 22 years old, being that young and then being willing to, and already having the knowledge, being willing to work hard and you have a good work ethic, you're providing value.
Yeah.
And you're displaying yourself as a very good investment. Like, yeah, you can spend the time and energy and resources and, taking me under your wing, training me, exposing me to new things. Maybe you wouldn't to your average 20, 21-year-old just wants a job.
Yeah.
Doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. This is his first time doing stuff. And again, work with very high responsibility, high risk, and now you're in a big city doing it for productions that are tens of millions of dollars that it took to put together.
Yeah.
Like, how big do you think, like, how long were you in LA for in total?
Almost 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. And that 4 years, what was like some of the bigger events that you got to work on?
Let's see. I guess in terms of money, it kind of depends. Like, I feel like one of the bigger ones I did was this thing for Sony. I think it was...
It was this thing for one of the biggest corporations ever.
Not Sony. I'm sorry. Nike.
Okay. Now backed by the Chinese government. Okay, yeah. One of the biggest companies ever. Holy shit.
Yeah, like my first gig, I was working on the lot in Warner.
Nice.
In the Warner Studios. I think it was... Or no... I can't even remember what that one was for. The next one I did was like a rehearsal for Shania Twain. I've done stuff that was like fashion shows that they built on the beach. I've done, like I've worked Taylor Swift there. Like I climbed, helped put up like some of her towers there at one point.
Damn.
Like the amount of gigs I've turned down there is crazy just because I was busy with other stuff. Like, there's so much money flying in that place. And I'm trying to think of, like, the biggest stuff I've done, but
those are fucking massive, dude. Especially being on, like, a movie lot or it's the set, an actual production set. I mean, that is... Talk about an investment. Like, they have to trust and vet every single person that steps onto that lot, regardless of what their fucking job is. You could be somebody rigging up lights, putting that shit on, or, you just be like I just had to... Because I'm a recruiter for the security company that I work for, and we have the contract from Netflix. We had to staff all those people, and they were like, "These people need to be fucking." Yeah. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, I get it, but like, holy fuck, dude.
Well, it's even harder now because there's so many people. Like, cancel culture wasn't as crazy back then, so like it was probably even easier. 6 years ago, 7 years ago when I got there. It wasn't as crazy. Like now you have, like, from what I understand, like even Beyonce's team, they'll do background checks and they'll vet like their social media for everybody on their team because they don't want any, predators, anybody with like a crazy past, anybody with crazy ideals,
Did you watch that fucking Nickelodeon documentary?
No.
Oh, dude.
I like not that I don't want to you sympathize for some of those people, but like there's some things for me, like I'll let my childhood be my child.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, I don't want to belittle that and say living in ignorance, but just like, yeah, there's some rocks you don't want to uncover, and people have the different things, and that's totally fair. Because I watched it, and dude, that is some fucking, especially like all the Drake Bell shit.
Yeah, that poor dude.
Did you hear about like what all went down?
Yes, yeah. I've heard about some of it.
Dude, they dedicated an episode and a half to it. And those are hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy, like, nobody knew. Well, people knew, but, like, thankfully, like, when it happened, the guy went to trial, but he got, like, 16 months of probation because he was Drake Bell's, like, not acting coach. Maybe it was his acting coach. Like, his, like acting fucking mentor or whatever. He was like a dedicated role that was hired on by Nickelodeon. Shit goes down, gets 16 months of probation, turns around, and works on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Yeah,
like,
crazy.
What the fuck?
It's crazy how rampant that is in that whole industry. Still probably is.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people that are sweating. Ever since the Me Too movement started, like there's a lot of people sweating like, oh fuck.
Yep.
When is my number up?
Yeah.
When are they gonna come after me for that shit?
Well, because the Me Too movement obviously has its place. It took down some very ugly people. It took down some very bad people. Obviously, the biggest one being Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
His court documents are fucking wild.
Yeah.
They, I forget who the witness was, but it was I know it was a prominent actress from like the 90s into the 2000s, and they had her go on. She was a witness during one of the trials, and she goes, yeah, Harvey called me up to his hotel room, and he was wearing a robe, and I guess what happened was he had fucking a form of necrosis on his dick.
Yeah.
And so when he said, yeah, when he dropped the robe, I thought he was trans. Because of how fucked up hhis genitals looked. It was like, oh, shit. But then, on the flip side of the Me Too movement, you have a lot of false accusations that came out about people.
Yeah.
Or accusations that came out and tabloids ran with it and exploded it like crazy into something that it really wasn't. But you're totally right about the background checks. Like, I have the option to, I haven't had to do it yet because we haven't had a client request it, but we can, like, if you apply for a job, we can run a background check on your social media.
Yeah.
And like all you just put in, like, for some of them, I think it's you just put in their like username for whatever the service is, and it just goes, all right, let's see all the skeletons in this fucking asshole's closet.
Yeah. Well, even like, so the cancellation thing, I thought up until recently that Drake Bell was like a pedophile because they had put something out about him, and his thing was like that he was talking to this girl, and as soon as she told him she was like 15 or something, he like stopped contact, but they tried to make it seem like he was trying to groom this girl.
Well, I looked into that case a bit, and what I took out of it, from what I remember about reading about it and watching some of because they did a lot, because this all came out during COVID. So a lot of the trial hearings were virtual, which is fucking pitiful. I mean, I get, okay, if you're worried about COVID or not, but I mean, that's just fucking pitiful. Like, if you're doing a speedy and well-done trial, which is a right, that shit should be in person. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally somebody's life. Whether or not you know they did it, innocent until proven guilty, you know, everyone deserves a equal trial. Yeah. And there's a lot taken out of the experience when something is virtual, let alone a criminal trial. You know what I mean? Anyway, so they, what they had got him on was, you're right, he was speaking to an underage girl because he didn't get soliciting sex from a minor. It was just like, I forget what the actual term is, but it's something where an adult, like a man in his late 30s, shouldn't be talking to I think she's like 16 or 17. Yeah. That shouldn't be a fucking thing, right? Yeah. But then it was also child endangerment because he had brought her to a club a few times. Okay. And it was like, okay, now you're exposing this person to like the adult lifestyle or whatever it is, and they called that child endangerment, which, I mean, yeah. A fucking late 30-year-old shouldn't be taking a 16-year-old to a fucking nightclub and getting her drunk. Yeah. Probably shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, I don't think anything like, because you're right, the media tried to paint him as like, yeah, this is a guy that raped this fucking 16-year-old. Yeah. It's like, was what he was doing, was it bad? Should it be frowned upon? 110%. Was it sexual assault? Thankfully, it wasn't. Yeah. So the sensationalism took over.
And I was so confused like a month ago when I learned that people were like sympathizing for Drake Bell. I was like, wait a minute, don't people hate him? Isn't he a pedophile? And then I looked into it and I'm like, fuck, man. Like that was one of, I don't know if that was a Me Too thing, if that happened before or after.
It happened well before. Oh, okay. When his rapist got put to trial, that was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was like the early 2000s.
Oh, no. I'm talking about not his situation. I know that happened when he was young, but the situation with the girl.
With the girl, yeah, it was part of the Me Too movement. Yeah, because like I said, all their trials and shit were over Zoom because of COVID. Yeah. So yeah, that was a part of the Me Too movement. Yeah, I don't know. And then when they start talking about stuff, like I'm sure you've seen it too, but I see like screenshots of articles where it's like, or I've read articles where like in Ireland, actually just recently, this guy got arrested because the Irish government got a hold of his group chat and all the fucked up shit him and his buddies were saying to each other, and they threw the motherfucker in jail.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then they're trying to apply that to comedy clubs out in Ireland too. It's like, if you say something that could be deemed too offensive, or if it goes against what the government says, we're going to throw you in jail for saying it as a performer at a comedy club.
Yo, if my group chat gets leaked, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'll be fine. I don't know about you pendejos.
I don't know, man. I'm in a couple of group chats with my buddies. We just send fucked up memes to each other because it's funny. It's on the internet and it's funny.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not like, oh my God, dude, we had a friend who actually turned out to be, granted, he did it in like the most retarded way possible, but he's in prison right now. He's in federal prison right now because him and 2 other guys during like the height of the BLM riots during the George Floyd incident when that happened, at the height of the riots in Vegas, I guess they were in some Facebook page. It was like soft white nationalism was going on in there. And the FBI had a plant in the page. And this dude and then 2 other guys he had met in the page. And this is a guy that me and my friend group, my close friend group, we'd known this dude since like sophomore year of high school, around there. And he's one of those guys where it's like, you know, something off about him. Like, he's fun to have around. He's a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's good to laugh with or laugh at, regardless of what's going on. You know what I mean? But just as we grew up, he just kept on being more and more of an asshole, and we all slowly started cutting him out of our personal lives and shit like that. Well, fucking summer of 2020 hits, and this guy and 2 other dudes, they get arrested for domestic terrorism because they were planning on throwing fucking pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails at the rioters and at the police. But what was funny about it, to be honest, was like he was a reservist in the Army. I forget what his fucking job was. And then like the 2 other guys were like ex-Navy reservists. They didn't do shit, right? But the media painted them as like these, like they spoke in military code and they had military tactics and they it's like, no, okay. They were idiots that got overzealous, and thank God you caught them because at least they would have killed themselves and done damage to property. But if they were successful, they would have killed a lot of people. Yeah. So I'm glad. And then another common denominator, unfortunately, the lead guy out of these 3 people, I guess he already had child exploitation charges. So the judge was like, fuck you, you're going to prison for life. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, he had those original charges and then he was like deemed the leader of the 3. It's like, oh yeah, I think he got 40 to life with no probation. I was like, yeah, you go.
Yeah,
society's done with you.
As soon as you put child anywhere in those charges, it's like, okay, yeah, lock it up. Like, throw away the fucking key, bro.
Like, I know we have a very, very broken criminal justice system, a very broken one that needs to get fixed and then refixed.
Yeah.
But if you catch somebody fucking red-handed doing shit to a kid, I'm not opposed to public hangings, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Chicano.
Send a fucking message.
I'm Chicano, man. We don't play that shit.
We can string up all the pedophiles and right in the middle of Old Town.
Oh, dude, like some bad happened to me, bro. Like, I'm like a few like really bad things happening to me away from just like dedicating my life to that shit, bro. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to hell, I'm going for good fucking reasons, bro.
Well, you've seen that video where it's this guy, he was in prison for murder, I think. Something like that. And I don't remember how it happened, but he had lost his daughter, right? And so he's in prison, and his cellmate got put into prison for, like, raping, like, a 4-year-old girl or some shit. Yeah. And so the first night he's there and he finds out about it, he just kills the guy. They take him to trial, and he's just clear as day. He's like, yeah, judge, I did it. He's a pedophile. I don't like that shit. I killed him.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
The guy's a hero.
Yeah, that shit's awesome.
Speaking of heroes, you got Elon Musk here.
Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Did you see the fucking Neuralink shit?
The what?
Neuralink. What? Yeah. Elon Musk. Did you see that they completed the first human trials?
They did?
And they wheeled that dude out on stage? Yeah. So because the idea with the Neuralink was that it is... they're not going to obviously be able to fix any injuries that involve your spinal cord. Like, that's done. Like, medical technology is nowhere near that. You break your spinal cord, but you're somehow still alive. It's not happening for you. So they're not going to be able to, like, give you the restoration of your limbs back. But down the line, they are looking at, like, what can Neuralink do to help bring back people like that have severe muscular dystrophy and stuff like that. Yeah. But right now, they had a guy, I think he has complete MS or something like that. And so he's completely wheelchair bound, needs full-time nursing, needs full-time care, that type of shit. But he's verbal. Like, he can speak completely, right?
Okay.
He's like Christopher Reeve type, right?
Yeah.
So he comes out on stage, and he's the first guy to get Neuralink for a human trial.
Okay.
And they've got him on the stage, and he's moving a mouse cursor with his mind.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And they're like, it's so fucking funny. They're like, so, how does it feel to move a mouse or a computer cursor with your mind? And he goes, it is so weird. It's the most candid fucking response.
Yeah.
But could you imagine like where that's going to take us, dude? Because it's connecting. What scares me about it is that it connects via Bluetooth. That scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah, Bluetooth ain't secure at all, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably figure that out, though, soon. You know, different types of, like, Wi-Fi connections or, like,
See,
whatever.
like, I don't think your brain is supposed to be meant to hooked up to Wi-Fi.
Oh, no, they're definitely playing God, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Like, I saw a funny thing on Instagram. It was, like, this dude sleeping, and the caption was, when you could only afford the ad version of Neuralink, you're just sleeping and it's like, oh, Riley. Like, in the middle of sleep and a fucking loud ass ad comes on. Like, I couldn't think of anything more like accurate. Because like even now, Netflix went to ads. Like, everybody's an ad based thing unless you're
this
paying extra.
podcast is an ad-based thing. Shout out to Chop Chili and HDR. We run ads.
Podcasts have always been ad-based things, right? Like you can expect it from a podcast,
Right, but yeah, from a brain implant, that's a real issue. But then, like, and I also wonder too, because this is just the beginning, and we're seeing how quick AI is evolving. We're seeing how fast it can grow and sustain itself. The fact that it can have a pronoun is scary. You know what I mean? You refer to it as a being, right?
Yeah.
So like we're seeing how quickly it's happened over the last, let's just say, like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
More like Neuralink is just the beginning. Whatever that evolves into, I wonder. Like, I was talking about this with my buddy a few weeks ago. I wonder if you had, let's say above every human being, there's this like invisible meter that God sees, right? And right now we're all at 100% human. How many augmentations and implants and just nonsense are we going to be able to put into our bodies till it's like, okay, now you're only 80% human. Now you're like 50% human. And then it gets to the point where you're more cyborg than you are human. Do you have a soul anymore? Because what's controlling you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I see what you mean.
This is what happens when I smoke too much fucking weed. Dude. This is what I think about before I go to bed.
Do you what's gonna deteriorate your soul? I guess your being, like who you are, like that. That's always an interesting topic, right? Because what makes you you? Like, who are you? And then you give any answer, you'd be like, no. Who are you? It's like that scene in Anger Management. You give another answer. No, that's your name. Who are you? Oh, I'm this guy. I like to do this. Those are your hobbies. Who are you? Like, it's a very philosophical question. And
well, I wonder like how much of it is not even taking away from your soul, but not allowing it to come out anymore. You know what I mean? Because then your actions, how much of them become predetermined?
Yeah.
How much of them become automated? Because again, you're becoming more cyborg than you are human. Then it's like, are you even alive anymore? Are you yourself, or are you just a bunch of parts put together to resemble a human? You become a fucking android.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm here for it. Like, I broke my ankle. It would have been nice if I could just control a little metal, kind of like a little cyborg sling, just so I could be walking around and shit. That would have been great.
Well, right. No, that would be dope. Right. That would be sick to like. I think we're going to get to that point eventually. Now, granted, if human greed wasn't a thing, I think we'd be there a lot quicker, where we have like legit like bionic arms, or like a bionic leg, or like really like well-made replacement ankles. Like knee surgeries have come so fucking far, but like you're obviously not the same anymore, and it's not as good as where it used to be, right? Depending on where you go and you get your surgeries done. Like, that would be sick, but then just, like, how much of the augmentation to the brain, right?
Yeah.
And that's why brain surgery can't be a thing. Because, like, let's say I died, and then, or no, let's say you died, and then I'm on the brink of death. It's like, oh, a brain surgery is going to save Noah, but you put your brain in my body. I'm not me.
I'd give you my brain, bro.
But I'm not me anymore. You know what I mean?
But what if you could be?
I can't be, because, like, my consciousness does not live in your brain.
I mean...
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, you put your brain in me, it's your brain controlling my body.
I would just be happy I have facial hair. I'd just be happy I have a nice beard, man. I don't see why it's such a big problem.
That's funny. And then, like there's a movie from the late, I think it's like 2009, 2010. It's called Repo Man. You ever seen that?
I understand the premise.
With Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker.
I don't remember the movie, but I know what it's like about.
Such a good fucking movie. For people who don't know what the fuck that movie is, basically dystopian, like cyberpunk type future, and humans or pharmaceutical companies have now figured out a way to make like perfect replacement hearts, lungs, just organs, and they're like, hey, yeah, we can do all this. They're very expensive, but you have health insurance, so that's okay. But if you're late on your payments even 1 month, we're gonna send the repo man.
Yeah.
And like the opening scene, that is one of my favorite opening scenes to any movie, is when they track down the guy and Forrest Whitaker holds him down and Jude Law has to cut out. I think he has to cut out his stomach.
Yeah.
And they do it live, like while the dude's alive.
Yeah.
I see that future becoming real.
Do you know how many people would be getting their dicks repoed? Like, do you know how much a dick repoer would make on a monthly basis? Like, do they give you back the old one, or like...
They put your discarded dick on ice and just staple it back on. And it's a bunch of broke SoundCloud rappers that spend all their money on fake dicks.
even famous rappers be getting shit repoed, bro.
Nah, Justin Timberlake will buy that wholesale. That's okay. He will buy him and the rest of NSYNC will buy all their dicks wholesale. They'll feel like yeah, that's how NSYNC turns into G Unit, dude.
You think NSYNC has money? It's Justin, bro. That's all Justin.
Fuck yeah, they have money, dude. I don't know. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to talk out of my ass. But I would have to imagine, because of how big they were and those contracts they were signing, and they were still like, and they just squeaked out when, out of like the era of streaming, when that took over and streams were what's important, and that's how you show like your numbers and that type of stuff. They were still on like record sales and shit like that.
Yeah, but it depends on their contracts.
Right, but I would have to imagine that because of that, there's more room in that contract for residuals.
It depends. It always depends, right?
You think Bye is not giving them a fuck ton of residuals every year? Come on now.
Like, here's the thing. Justin seems to have a really good relationship with all of them. Like, I've never heard of them beefing or arguing.
Well, they just put out a new song together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming that he has a good relationship with all of them, and he seems like a decent dude. You never know in the music industry. But, like, contract-wise, you don't know what their contracts were. They were fucking sharks back then. Mm-hmm. There are people that had number one hits that are still, like, you know, they're one-hit wonders. Their songs still play everywhere where they don't see a dime of it.
Right.
Snoop Dogg didn't see a dime of Doggy Style until recently, until he bought fucking Death Row.
No shit.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg didn't get any of that money for years.
Well, Death Row was owned by Suge Knight, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a big part of it, too.
Yeah, of course. But it's not like the NSYNC's people
like he's not
were
an anomaly,
probably that
right.
much better.
No, I
you know,
get you.
they just didn't go and, you know, hang people out of windows and stuff. They paid other people to do it.
Have you seen that fucking interview? It's from the late 90s where Suge Knight, I think he's talking to Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
And he makes that joke about Eazy-E getting stabbed with the HIV needle.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, granted, I don't think that's how, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's a paramedic, and he was explaining to me how like that can't really work in theory just because of with the way HIV works is a virus is once it gets exposed to oxygen it dies.
Okay.
But then I also think about it, I'm like, okay, well then why is it not okay for all HIV positive people to share? I mean, you shouldn't share needles ever anyway. But like, that's like one of the big things about the HIV/AIDS community. Like they tell them like, if you're gonna do drugs, don't fucking share needles.
Yeah.
Because of that type of disease.
Yeah. And I mean, Suge Knight talking about that, he could just be going on rumors that people were saying about him, and he wanted to scare people like that, right? Like,
I mean, self-snitching's a real thing too.
yeah. I mean, but he didn't even go to prison for that, right? Because he could disprove that in court immediately.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it
no,
was a joke.
right.
It was just something
No,
I said.
right.
Like, he could have just been playing on like rumors that were already out about him.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no, for sure.
And then, like, I don't know. Suge Knight he's just a big fucking bully.
Yeah. But anyway, about the restiduals and shit, I'd imagine this was making a lot of money from that. And,
Maybe.
And this never really became clear because it's not my world, so I don't look into it a whole lot. But Toby from the Slums, he's the one that first explained it to me really well, because he was like, when he first entered that band, he was like, okay, I need to understand like the business side of it. So he explained like all the 360 deals and like how all the money they give you isn't really your money. It's a loan that you have to use to like obviously feed yourself, house yourself, and keep yourself alive. But you've also got to pay for like all your merch and all your this and that and producing of the album, and that's after all the like taxes get taken out, and like the manager gets paid and the publicist gets paid and all these people get paid and shit like that. It's how fucked people get on these record deals now. And this is something I wanted to ask you while you were in here. When do you think, because since you have all this kind of background knowledge and experience on how to make music, you're a performer and an artist yourself, right? So you live both sides of that coin, like you were describing a little bit earlier. At what point, because like right now, right, you can upload yourself to Spotify, to Apple, to Amazon Music, to Google Music, shit like that.
Yeah.
At what point should artists start getting paid for their streams?
I don't know. Immediately.
Okay.
Spotify's doing this thing now where they won't pay you unless you get over 1,000 in a year, right? They won't pay you for that year, which, I mean, 1,000 streams is like 0.0000 something.
It's nothing.
Of a cent.
Yeah.
So, at what point should artists be paid for their streams?
Because I don't mean to look at it cynically, right? I don't mean to look at it cynically at all. And I'm certainly not defending $1 billion corporation, but I'm just curious about it because, again, like you just said, 1,000 streams a year that comes out to like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny.
Yeah.
So at what point is it even worth it to get monetized? You see what I'm trying to say? Like, when does the value show up?
I think that the numbers for streaming should be way better. I think that it shouldn't. Not necessarily you should be getting paid a bunch of money for just 1,000 streams. Not that everybody making music and putting out music should get paid and rewarded, just off rip, just because they're doing it. But the percentages should probably be higher. I mean, but also streaming has not been where people make their money.
No.
Everybody has understood that the entire time. For the most part, where artists are making their money is touring and merchandise. Merchandise is one of the biggest ones. Of course, brand deals, if they start doing stuff outside of music, commercials, clothing, there's so many ways for artists to make money outside of just the music, and they have to because the music does not pay nearly enough, like just people listening to the music.
How crazy is it that this is something I didn't know until I started talking to musicians. How crazy is it that there are venues that will charge you money to sell your merch at the show that you were on?
Yeah, it sucks.
How fucking crazy is that?
It sucks, but it's part of the game that's been in place for a very long time.
Yeah, but if there's anything that should be taken out, that should be one of them. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't disagree.
Because what did the venue, other than provide a space for you to set up a little table, at the minimum, right? Let's just say you don't have like how, what's a good example? Revel, right? The new Revel space. And I don't know if Revel charges for merch or to sell your merch there. I don't know. Haven't spoken to anybody that's played the big stage at Revel like that anyway. But how Revel, you've been there, right? To the newer stage. So how in the back where they sell the merch. They have like the cages where you can hang things up. So let's say like you're not even bringing your own type of thing like that as an artist. You're just bringing a table with a decent tablecloth that you maybe washed a month ago. And you've got like your 4 different shirts and you got some fucking stickers and a dildo or God knows what you're selling, right? And so what is the venue doing other than providing that space? That little tiny plot of land. What are they doing?
Well, it also depends on whether the venue, whether they're promoting it. Like, I don't think typically the venue promotes. It's the promoter who promotes it. But,
Right.
Yeah, they're not doing much. I mean, from what I understand, Live Nation, I think. I don't want to say this fully because Live Nation is a big, evil fucking company.
Yeah,
but
when the United States government has to look into your corruption, that's how bad Live Nation and Ticketmaster got. They get away with fucking murder.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you know who Mark Normand is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he came through town 2 Saturdays ago. And months.
Oh, damn, I missed that.
Yeah, months. Dude, he fucking dropped in at Dry Heat. I was pissed because that final Saturday that Dry Heat was open at their original location, I was on the early show.
Okay.
And so I did my show, and I left afterwards. And so there was the early show at 7:30 and the late show at like 9:30. He fucking drops into the late show and does a set.
Oh, man.
To like 45 people.
That sucks. It sucks to miss that, bro.
Isn't that crazy? Anyway, so he was coming through, and so like Leroy's a huge fan of him too, and so was Nev. And so we were all looking at tickets like when they first popped out, right?
Yeah.
And even using like the artist code, getting like not nosebleeds, but like mid-level seats.
Yeah.
They were like $65, $55 around there. I was like, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. After all the fees and the bullshit not even just taxes, but just all the bullshit tacked on top of it, those $55, $60 tickets turned into $90.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm not buying a ticket and a half, 2 tickets. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah, man. So, like, from what I understand, though, I don't want to take up for Live Nation. I don't know if it's them who did it or somebody else, but there's a thing now where if you don't make a certain amount over in merch sales, they don't take anything from you. Like, I think it's Live Nation venues, but I'm not fully sure. Which is cool because that's a big change, you know, because their merch splits were fucking they've always been crazy.
I've heard of some being like 50-50, 60-40, even like fucking 70-30 in favor of the venue.
Yeah. So like that's a big thing, and I'm happy that whoever is doing it, I think it might be Live Nation, is taking off those cuts because you have a lot of bands too that like they have a merch person or like a shady manager for the band that like loses the band gigs with the promoter or with people because they're like trying to pocket shit. You know, they're not being straight up with the numbers. Like you have a lot of different variables and a lot of different people that like, you know, don't understand the business or don't care or like they're like, fuck you, I'm not paying you for having my merch table up in here. Like, you know, it's complicated, a lot of things for a lot of people.
Well, because there's already so many people, like we were illustrating a little bit earlier, there's already so many people that's putting their hands in the pot of the money that, like, you're not going to see your favorite band or your favorite musician or your favorite rapper or your favorite comedian because you love what their manager's doing. You could give 2 shits what that manager is. You're just going to see the performer.
Yeah.
So they are driving in all the money. And, of course, you have the instances like locally. You'll have, like for me, I love Launchpad. So if I don't even have to know what the band is. If I know there's a metal show at Launchpad, I'd like to drop in because I can trust Launchpad puts on good stuff.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You have that. But I'm not sticking around because I love Launchpad so much. If the music sucks, I'm going to dip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it sounds like a bunch of fucking incoherent noise,
Yeah.
I have voices in my head. Like I could stay home and close my eyes for that. You know what I mean? That's a free admission. But at the end of the day, it's the artist bringing in the money. There's already so many people putting their hands in the pot, taking away from the artists. Let them have their fucking merch, dude.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, of course you're not going, so to touch on a point you just made, like, you're not going to see the manager, right? But a good manager, of course, can make or break a band.
Oh, for sure.
Like, there are bands here in town that should be way bigger than they are, and it's because they don't either have good management or they don't have any management, you know. And a good manager will do the basic stuff that needs to happen for that band to get more eyes on them, for that band to be able to generate more money, of course.
That's
right.
That's a good topic to end on. Okay. I agree. There are a lot of bands here. Okay, I'll rephrase that. There are a good number of bands here and artists here that should be bigger. Now, granted, just because I can already hear what people are thinking, you can apply that to almost any city where there are just amazing artists that aren't getting discovered. But because you're born and raised here in New Mexico, yes, you have the outside experience of LA and then coming back, but for New Mexico itself, for Albuquerque, what do you feel like? What's the ceiling? Like, what is holding back? Like I look at bands like the Mango Cakes, like the Slums. They're rising pretty well too. But or like the Red Light Cameras, or like there's a lot of musicians here, right, that should be higher up in like the totem pole. I guess it's a very big totem pole, but they should be higher than where they are. What is the ceiling? What's holding? And it's a very generalized question, but like what's holding a lot of this progress back, in your opinion?
The lack of understanding of social media. First thing with any band.
I'm gonna bring the mic a little closer.
Oh, yeah. First thing with any band is you have to have good music. Your songs have to be good, right? Mango Cakes have good music. Slums have good music. Second thing is you have to have them produced really well, right? They have to sound radio ready. That's like, those two things are like prerequisites, right? Like, it doesn't matter how good your social media is, how good any of that shit is, kind of for the most part. Your songs have to be catchy. They have to grab people. Or you just have to be a fucking great personality on social media. And people they don't even care about your music. They just want to see your skits and shit like that. But, yeah, I think past the music, because a lot of bands don't have good produced music out here. It just doesn't sound good. It's not, like, there's no love put into it. You know, outside of that, it's just social media.
How much do you feel like it's not passion getting put into it, and then just access to equipment? And then even if you have the access to really good, like, mixing and mastering and producing equipment, you don't have the right minds behind that equipment. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's a few a few decent studios that you could pay for where you could get, you know, radio ready music.
Right.
So I don't think that's so much of a problem. Like, if you're serious about your music, you should be willing to pay a studio to go in and record it and to mix it and master it. You know, as far as not having access, I think it's just also a lot of bands are trying to do it themselves. Like me, I've been trying to learn as much as I can on my own the past few years, even though I have a team. Like that team I was talking about at the beginning of the show where, you know, I started working with that funk and soul band. They're still my mentors. You know, they're still some of my best friends. I put in work for them, and over the past few years that I started even making music and focusing on it, they've been a great help to me. But along that time, I've been trying to learn how to make my own and mix my own music and do everything myself, because I don't want to be reliant on having to pay into a studio. So there's a lot of bands doing that too, and it just, you know, it doesn't sound that great, and they don't know, you know. But I don't think it's a lack of access. I think it's a lack of wanting to pay somebody for a lot of the bands, wanting to pay for a good mix, wanting to put the time in to produce a good song, you know, because it's one thing to just pay somebody to, here, just do this song, and it's another thing to want to, like, build a song from the bottom up.
Right.
You know, for me, I love producing music. Whether it's for myself or other artists, if a song connects with me, if it's a good song, that's all I need. And then I can go off and I can start building it and recording it, and then I'll ask my friends for help with the mixing, or like just advice, like, what do you think? How do you think this sounds? Like, I'm always referencing with people, but I think it's a lack of them wanting to spend real time on building their songs and wanting to spend money overall here.
Right.
Just on the music end. And then after that, even with good songs and good quality, it's just, again, lack of social media understanding, lack of the discipline to like do the social media stuff that you need to do nowadays, you know, because it takes discipline. You know, it takes a lot of content before something hits a lot of time. And then something hits or something like they start picking up any little bit of traction, then they fall off. They're not posting anymore, you know, or they're posting the same stuff and people are getting bored. So their engagement drops, and then the algorithm doesn't like that. And
it's tricky.
It's fucking hard.
It's fucking tricky to work the algorithm. Like I'll have reels that I really believe in. And I'm like, this is gonna do well, and it does fucking nothing. And then like I have one where it's just like that'd be really stupid. I'm gonna put that up, and it got 5 million. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, now granted, in my one reel that did get 5 million, the comment section just literally how stupid me and my friends are. It's like, well, yeah, we were drunk 20-year-olds on a podcast. Like, what are you expecting from here?
Yeah.
But so what does the future look like for you right now?
I'm building my skills as a producer, as an engineer, as an artist, all of that. Writing more songs, producing more songs, working on my stuff, working on other people's stuff, and also figuring out how to jump back into the audio thing, because I stopped that for the most part for the last few years, you know, because I wanted to be an artist. Like that's a whole separate podcast just on like the last few years. But I've realized over the past few years that I need money. You know,
Yeah.
I need money to pay, you know, for a team to help me do the stuff that I don't know how to do, like the social media stuff. I'm not that good at it. You know, I don't know how to do skits. I don't think I want to do skits. I don't know how to promote my music properly. Like, there's so many things that I don't know how to do that I just want to pay somebody to do. I also got to be able to pay for merch and, you know, like you were talking about earlier, there's so much that I want to be able to do with my music, and I'm not going to be able to do it without money. So the next year or two, I'm going to be building up songs, building up a catalog, building up my skills, while also trying to make as much money as I can to be able to do that. Because unless I have some leverage or I get some fucking viral TikTok off of one of my songs by chance, I'm going to have to pay a lot of money to make my shit happen the way that I want it to.
Right.
You know, and I'm willing to do that. I don't mind it, but I'm not in a rush.
You say it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, and I've been sprinting for the past few years and just realizing that it doesn't work like that. Not here, especially.
No.
Like, it's hard to get people together.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. And that's when you have stupid-ass videos. Like this past week and come out of fucking downtown. I'm sure you saw that.
Yeah.
That idiot just pulling out a gun and shooting somebody.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, what the fuck? And that other idiot right next to him just starts.
Yeah, not even looking, bro. Like,
So
I was
fucking.
like, I don't know if you need to go real quick, but like the last time I got really drunk downtown, I was walking, like I was like, okay, I'm not like drunk, but I can use another 10 minutes of walking. You know, I'm not buzzed, I'm not fully there. Let me walk. And I like looked up and I was like, I kind of want to fight somebody tonight. Oh my God. Like, you know, I'm still angry. You know, I'm still pissed off. I'm still, you know, learning how to deal with all, you know, a lot of the shit that I grew up with, you know, trauma, whatever the fuck. So like I'm walking and I get from 7th all the way down to like 2nd, and I'm walking, and then I just see these two people fighting next to me, like yelling at each other, fucking blah, blah, blah. This guy starts walking like at the same pace as me. He's like a few feet away from me. His friend is like grabbing, he's like, hey bro, calm down, bro. It's not that serious, bro. And I look down and the guy walking that's being calmed down is like holding a gun, like fucking finger on the trigger right next to me. And I'm just walking next to him and I'm like, all right, let me just not make eye contact, keep on walking. But like homie was like, and the guy that he was looking at holding his fucking gun to is just laughing at him, you know, calling him a pussy. And it's like, like, bro, that was the night I was like, okay, I'm never going to go around looking for a fight anymore, especially here, because nobody wants to fight here.
No.
Nobody wants to fight. And I can't imagine what would happen if I even want to fight here.
No, you get shot. You don't have to imagine it. You're going to get shot.
Yeah.
Because everybody's carrying, and if you don't get shot, someone's gonna pull a knife on you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna end up in the hospital or dead. So yeah,
exactly.
I agree with that. Don't be looking for a fight.
Yeah, man. So like, it's the world we live, the city we live in.
Yeah, unfortunately. Whenever you do have performances coming up, by the way, let me know. I want to help push that out because you're good, dude.
Appreciate
You're
that.
good to watch on stage. You're very talented.
Thank you, man.
In the interim, where can people find your music? Where can they find your social media, all that stuff?
So my Instagram and Facebook is LJ the Kid Music, all one word. I also have Nighttime Drive Music, which is basically the brand and the label behind everything. So like I'm gonna have other artists' songs coming off of that label, kind of, or just I'll be collaborating with other artists and their labels through that. So Nighttime Drive Music is everything. LJ the Kid is me. So
Fuck yeah. Well, listen, man, I want to have you back on. This is a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what you do in the future, especially with Nighttime Drive.
I appreciate it,
you. People that, no matter what medium it is, people that are here in the city trying to bring other good local entertainers together. Emphasis on good local, right? I'm all for supporting local, but specifically the good ones. Bringing people together like that because there's power in numbers. And there's
Absolutely.
Look, man, it's a feast. It's not a famine. There's enough for everybody.